Ever wonder why your garden in spring starts strong, but then fizzles out by early summer? Or why maybe you just feel like you can't stay on top of the weeds? Well, it could actually be because of mistakes that you're making right now in April that you don't even realise. I've made them all myself, and I don't want you to fall into the same traps. So in this video, I'm going to show you 3 key April gardening mistakes to avoid so that your garden can stay abundant and productive and beautiful right through the season. Hey everyone, how's it going and welcome back. April is a really busy month and it's so easy to get caught out by just a few seemingly small but what are actually quite important mistakes. So whether you're growing your own food or flowers or just getting into gardening, these are the kind of slip-ups that really can cost you later. So let's jump into the first one. Earlier in the year, I warned you about sowing your seeds too early when light and warmth are just lacking because I didn't want you to end up with weak, leggy seedlings. But now, the opposite mistake can happen, stopping seed sowing too soon. What happens for many of us is that by March, we've hit our stride. We've sown loads of trays and pots of seeds. We've got loads of seedlings. The season feels like it's started, and then we stop. We sit back and we think, right, job well done. But if you want a steady, consistent supply of crops, April is when successional sowing becomes crucial. If you're not sure what successional sowing means, it's basically just sowing little and often. Think of it as creating a staggered harvest rather than having one big glut. This is especially important for quick growing crops. Things like radishes, salads, leafy greens or chard. If you don't keep those sowing, if you don't keep sowing, yes, you're going to enjoy one great harvest, but then you're going to find yourself with gaps and nothing actually ready to follow on. But what's the solution? Well, have a look at what you've already sown, check what's likely to be harvested soon, and plan another new round of sowing. Keep a nice small group of go-to seeds that you can always rely on, things that grow quickly, that don't take up much space, and most importantly, that you enjoy eating. For instance, I always keep a little bundle of my favourite seeds: salad leaves, radishes, chard, kale to pick as baby leaves, and some herbs. I try, and I do mean try because I don't always stay on top of this myself, to keep a nice ongoing production line of seedlings. Seedlings in the greenhouse, young plants being moved out, and plants in the garden being harvested. Also, don't forget, spring isn't actually the only sowing season. Some crops prefer slightly warmer soils and longer days to get started. So a late spring sowing can often still outperform a much earlier one if you've been a wee bit too overzealous. Also, slow growing crops, overwintering crops, as well as biennials like foxgloves actually do better when they're sown later in the spring so that they can grow through the winter for next year. So write a reminder for when you want to sow them. Most of all, don't just think that spring seed sowing is a do it once and you're done kind of thing. April is the perfect time to get seed sowing, get the rhythm going, and keep it going right into the summer. Okay, here is a mistake that I have honestly been making for years and years, until recently, without actually realising how much extra work I was creating for myself, and it's leaving bare soil in beds. It sounds harmless, but it's actually one of the biggest invitations to weeds that you could ever send out. When you leave nice, clean, bare soil exposed, nature doesn't look and go, oh, what a lovely, clean, tidy, organised bed. It sees a blank canvas, and weeds are always the first ones, I suppose, to pick up a brush and put a big mark on that clean canvas. Weed seeds are opportunists. They blow in on the wind. They get dropped by birds. They get pooped out by birds. They hitch a ride in compost or in new plants that you bring in, and they'll always find a way in. And when they land on bare, moist, warm spring soil, they have everything they need to germinate really fast. Sunlight? Yep. Moisture? Check. No competition? Absolutely. So here's what happens. in just a few weeks. And look at this bed. This really wasn't that bad until recently. What goes from looking like a nice clean patch turns into a weed fest. Then you're back to weeding, which takes time away from other jobs, more productive jobs, and also jobs that you would just much rather be doing. When you think about it, we'll take seeds of things that we want and we sow them onto bare soil, things like hardy annuals and other plants, fully expecting that they're going to successfully germinate for us, grow on, and give us what we want. Yet at the same time, we're sometimes surprised when weeds take hold in exactly the same conditions, but it doesn't have to be that way. Here is how to get rid of that problem. Mulch any empty beds with compost, with wood chip, with leaf mould, or even cardboard until you're ready to plant. In veg beds, interplant or successionally so that you keep that space moving and occupied and covered. In borders, try ground cover plants or low spreading flowers planted in between taller things. It's all about making sure to remember to keep that soil covered. When it's covered, it's healthier. It retains moisture, it maintains its structure, and it's also protected against erosion. So, when you're prepping your beds for planting, whether it's now or later, and you've got them nicely cleared out, make sure to take that wide open space and cover it. Cover it with plants, ideally. Cover it with some other kind of landscape fabric or tiles or anything, but manage it. Trust me, once you break the habit of leaving bare soil and letting things get to this stage, your plants are going to thrive, your soil stays in better condition, and you're going to be happier. This mistake is one that's actually a really tough lesson that I learned the hard way, and I truly don't want you to have to go through the same thing. Let me tell you a story. A few years back, I was filming one of my what to sow videos, and like many of you, I was raising loads of seedlings in my polytunnel at the back of the garden. By April, I had trays and trays of little plants, little seedlings, salads, brassicas, herbs, you name it, that I had been sowing in January, February, March. Then one bright spring day, just like this, I left for work without opening the doors of the polytunnel. The forecast didn't look incredible, like it looked mild and not hot, and it felt like just another pleasant April morning. But the sun came out, and with that, and with no ventilation, the temperature inside the polytunnel skyrocketed. So when I got home, I found everything, and I mean everything, cooked, roasted, baked, dead. Dozens of trays, months of careful seed sowing, just gone. Even after trying to water them, there was no saving them. And it was just gutting. And it's easy to think, that will never happen to me, but it is so common in April because if you live somewhere temperate like here in Ireland, our weather is incredibly changeable. Even if it's only 12 degrees outside, the sun alone can push temperatures in a greenhouse like this to well above 30. It's the same in a cold frame or in a polytunnel. So here's what I do now and what I recommend you do too. Firstly, open doors and vents first thing in the morning on any bright day. Even if it feels cool, believe me, it's not going to be cool in here. Use automatic vent openers or simple props if you're not going to be able to be home all the time to keep an eye on the greenhouse. And if you can, sit a louver vent as well. I have one here. It helps to create a chimney effect to help heat escape upwards and for nice cool air to enter the greenhouse or the polytunnel. Place delicate trays in shadier spots or under fleece or shade netting if you need to, and make sure to water early and make sure that seedlings aren't drying out in shallow trays. Seedlings that you might grow on in modules or very small pots, well, they're especially vulnerable. When you think this is quite a small volume of compost, it dries out fast, its temperature is going to increase quickly, so it can stress roots, it can wilt plants within hours. The key is planning. Look ahead at the forecast and if in doubt, ventilate, ventilate, ventilate. It is just a small step, but it can save you so much heartache. And let's face it, save you the heartache that I have been through myself. So those are 3 April gardening mistakes that I've made myself. and the ones that I want you to avoid. But knowing what not to do is only half of the story. If you want to make the most of this month in the garden, the next step is knowing some great things to plant. So don't miss this video right here, which is on screen. It's all about great plants to grow in April. And until next time, see you later.